Welcome to the 4thDown podcast. I'm your host, Alex, for today, and today we'll be recapping the 2023 NFL Divisional round. A lot of great storylines, a lot of great matchups. So let's get right into it. Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs was the first matchup of this past weekend. The Chiefs winning 27-20. Mahomes, he looked great. He had a high ankle sprain injury later on in the first half. Chad Henne came in and drove the team 98 yards for a game-leading touchdown to go into the half. And Mahomes came out in the second half, and he just does what Mahomes does best and just makes magical plays. Now, the biggest concern is going to be how healthy is that ankle going to be come next Sunday at 6:30. Well, there's no doubt Mahomes is going to play. I don't think they're going to rule him out. I think Mahomes is going to try his hardest to play, and even if he's not 100%, I think he will play. The Chiefs O-line allowed 0 sacks this past weekend against a pretty good Jacksonville Jaguars defense. So I expect the Kansas City Chiefs O-line to improve that. Now they will come up against the Bengals defense, which been playing pretty well so far in these playoffs. Forced a couple turnovers, forced a couple 3-outs against the Bills. But back to the Chiefs game, though, I think going forward, I think they're going to rely heavily on the ground game and maybe some quick throws to make sure Mahomes don't use that ankle as much. So, and again, big shout out to the Chiefs online for not allowing a sack for Mahomes. But let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit. Trevor Lawrence had a pretty okay game. A little bit better than his last weekend game. I think he had 217 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. There were some times where you thought the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to come back, but then they forced a mistake. The Lawrence interception and the Agnew turnover were big, especially the Agnew fumble. Because Jacksonville Jaguars were on a doorstep of making that a little bit competitive. I think it would have been like a 20-17 game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they fumbled the ball, Chiefs get the ball back, and Chiefs kind of just ran away with it. That's all pretty much for the Jaguars-Chiefs game other than the high ankle sprain for Mahomes and the Chad Henne 98-yard drive. The Chad Henne play was huge, though. I feel like not a lot of people are going to talk about that because it is a backup, but to get 7 points on the board with your backup quarterback on a crucial drive, which, who knows? I mean, the Chiefs won by 7 points. If Chad Henne got a 3-and-out, who knows? Maybe we could have went to overtime in that game. Who knows? But that's a huge drive for the Chiefs and a huge opportunity for the Jacksonville Jaguars to get back into it. But Chad Henne, he delivered, and he delivered it in the moment too. So, yeah. So, that was pretty much it for the Jaguars and the Chiefs game. Chiefs won 27-20, and they're going to their 5th straight AFC Championship game. And, of course, at Arrowhead Stadium. Now let's transition from the Jaguars-Chiefs game to the Giants-Eagles, and boy, this one was ugly. We said on the podcast back last week before Divisional weekend started, this was a game I think that could have been on an upset alert. And yes, Jalen Hurts just came back from his right shoulder injury, week 18. He struggled. It's bound to happen. You're going to struggle after being out for a couple weeks from an injury. But I thought the Giants would put up a better fight. I thought the Giants were a team that was kind of like the 2011 New York Giants, just sneaking into playoffs and making a magical run. Well, that magical run came to an end at Jalen Hurts' house. The Philadelphia Eagles ran wild over the New York Giants. 28-0 halftime. I mean, you saw Nick Sirianni having fun. You saw the Eagles having fun pretty much. It was just a beatdown. And that Philadelphia Eagles team, I kind of said it a little bit. They play well in the option game. I love the way they're playing in the option game. I love their running backs. Everything about the Eagles offense, I just love watching. They're such a fun offense to watch. They're very dangerous on both sides of the ball. And I don't think no matter who's running the ball, they're going to get a touchdown regardless because Gainwell had 112 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts got a touchdown, and Boston Scott got a touchdown. And you put that with Miles Sanders, this Philadelphia Eagles running game is very dangerous because we're so used to talking about the passing game. It's going to be an exciting and interesting matchup when the 49ers defense had to play against this Eagles running game in the option. So, but that's going to be a recap, or not a recap, a preview for Friday's show between but let's talk about the Giants for a little bit. Daniel Jones had an interception, was sacked 5 times. Saquon Barkley had 61 yards, averaging 7 yards a carry. But like I mentioned, the Giants just couldn't do anything. They lost the physical battle. They just couldn't compete with the Eagles. I mean, Brian Daboll was down 21 early in the fourth. It was 4th down, and he just punted. I think Brian Daboll kind of just wanted to get out of there and just get ready for next season. But Nick Sirianni, in his second year as head coach, led his team to an NFC Championship game. Back-to-back years in the playoffs. It's going to be a very fun game between the Niners and the Eagles. I think this could be the better of the two games next weekend. No really issue or concern with the Eagles from watching that game. The only concern probably is just don't overlook the 49ers. Because the Niners did struggle, and I'll get to that later in the show. The 49ers did struggle a little bit. So if I had to take a thing for the Eagles to be worried about for next week is not overlook the 49ers defense. But again, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're just playing like they're the best team in the NFL for a reason. They can beat you on the air, they can beat you on the ground, they can beat you in many ways. And that defense too, with Fletcher Cox and Gardner Johnson and all them, that Eagles defense is very underrated and very scary too. So we'll see what happens. It should be a fun game. As we go back to recapping the Giants-Eagles. Eagles win 38-7. And again, in a beatdown against New York Giants. Now we go from Saturday's game to Sunday game. And we start with the Bengals and the Bills. A lot of people were very high in the Bills. Respectfully so. I was high in the Bills. Back in October, after the Bills beat the Chiefs, I thought to myself, the Bills are the best team in the NFL. They're playing well. They're playing good. They're not really making mistakes. And then we went to the Packers-Bills game. I'm a Packers fan, so yeah. The Bills were up 24-7. They're playing really well. And the second half started, the Bills had a couple turnovers. And I'm like, who? Mistakes? And ever since that game, the Bills kept making mistakes. And mistakes. And more mistakes. We saw in Week 8. We saw it against the Lions game. We saw it from that game to now. The Buffalo Bills just could not contain that Bengals offense. And that was the main concern heading in the game is, are the Buffalo Bills really that good of a football team? They looked unstoppable from September to mid-October. But from Halloween weekend to now, they did not look great at all. And I even said, too, the Bengals are the best team in the AFC right now. And yesterday, explained why. This was a team that the Bengals, by the way. The Bengals were a team that they don't care whose house, what time, what planet, etc. The Bengals will beat you. And yesterday proved that. Joe Burrow had a phenomenal game. A phenomenal start to the game, too. He threw 2 touchdowns, and as mentioned, the Buffalo Bills couldn't stop a nosebleed in that first quarter. Things got a little interesting, as we approached halftime in the third quarter, too. But again, the Bills just kept making mistakes. 3 and out. Allen threw a pick in the end, which that didn't really count because the game was pretty much over anyways. But those first couple drives against that Bengals offense, those were huge. And it was snowing too. The Bills, with the weather factor in that game, they thought it could help the Bills. Nope. It was bad for the Bills. The Cincinnati Bengals just drove down the field. Like, Joe Burrow made that look easy. As Burrow finished the game 23 for 36, 242 yards, and 2 touchdowns. No pick. He was sacked one time. And that was the thing, too, about him in that game. The Bengals' offensive line was injured. They were afraid he was going to get sacked a lot more times against that Bills defense. They've only allowed 1 sack. That Bengals offense, 1 sack. And Joe Burrow, he's making his case as the best quarterback in the AFC right now. Obviously, right now it's Mahomes. But if Joe Burrow can beat Mahomes next week, will Burrow be the best quarterback in the AFC? Or not just AFC, but the NFL? We'll see, but Josh Allen just couldn't get anything going. The Bills' offense was just completely shut down. 10 points was the fewest points they scored this season. They couldn't get anything. The running game kind of worked a little bit, but they couldn't get the deep ball going. You have reports of Stephon Diggs getting frustrated with Josh Allen and having him walk out of the locker room like instantly after the game was over. So we'll see. It's a hard loss for the Bills. Especially the adversity and what everything happened. Now, I love the Bills organization. I think the Bills organization is one of the best in the NFL. And they just got to figure something out with the Bills. Whether it's, the defense or the offense, who knows? But the AFC is not getting any easier. The AFC is getting harder with teams like the Bengals and the Chiefs, and maybe Jacksonville's on the uprise. The Bills' Super Bowl chance, possibly their best Super Bowl chance, was probably this year. And I think next year is going to be their last best shot at Super Bowl. But we'll see. Who knows? That's a long time to think about. That's a long time, to process. But right now, the Buffalo Bills need to address some things in the offseason. Don't know what it is, but you can't be scoring 10 points on your home field, especially with that offense. So, we'll see. And going from the Bengals-Bills game to the last game of the divisional weekend was the Cowboys and the 49ers, in which the Cowboys' loss indicated my bracket was busted. I was perfect. I picked the Dallas Cowboys to beat the 49ers because I like Brock Purdy. That's, every player in the NFL, they do well and I enjoy. And I like Brock Purdy, but I did not trust Brock Purdy against a great defense. And to be fair, I was technically right. Brock Purdy struggled a little bit against that Cowboys defense. 19 for 29, 214 yards, no touchdown, no picks, and was sacked twice. And he struggled a little bit. He had George Kittle for the most part. When all else fails, just throw to George Kittle. But in the end, it was the Dallas Cowboys offense making mistakes against the San Francisco 49ers defense. We talked about it on the podcast too. I said I didn't trust Brock Purdy. She said she didn't trust Dak Prescott. And not trusting Dak Prescott was the right answer. He had 2 picks. One was pretty much in the red zone. That was a huge takeaway for the Niners defense. Now Brett missing the extra point, which it didn't really matter. But if the Cowboys would have scored a touchdown, they probably would have won the game instead of going for 2. But that's a what-if story. But like I said, Brock Purdy, when he plays these great defenses, he struggled. He struggled against the Seahawks, which were a great defense. Struggled against the Cowboys, which were a great defense. the running game and George Kittle and that Niners defense, pretty much huge. It was a great team effort by the 49ers. And again, that Niners defense just unleashing havoc on Dak Prescott, forcing a couple turnovers, getting a couple sacks. And I don't know what that last play was. Having Zeke under center. I get they want to be something fancy, you want to do something fancy, but just stick with your 5 regular linemen and just do regular lateral. There's no need to get fancy. You need 75 yards to get a touchdown. There's no need to be fancy. But Brock Purdy delivered when it mattered the most. The 49ers defense came in clutch when it mattered the most. And the San Francisco 49ers will take on the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. And the Bengals and Chiefs will face in the AFC title game. Which will be very exciting games. I think it's going to be probably the best football we've seen in a long time. Since last year. But that's pretty much it. A little bit of recap of the divisional weekend. We don't really do winners and losers of the playoffs because there's only like 7 teams left, 8 teams, so. But yeah. Alrighty, y'all. Thank you for watching or pretty much listening to the 4thDown podcast. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Spotify will come out one day. And as always, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.